This is Caroline from Caroline's Adventure. We all face challenges in our lives. How do some people take those challenges and turn them into powerful results? Join me as we dig into a story on resilience, hope, and joy, and uncover lessons we can each use in our own lives. But before we start, please take a moment to show that 5-star rating button some love, and follow while you're there to be updated every time I release a new episode. Now, before we begin, a word of caution. On this podcast, we regularly discuss topics like sexual assault, suicide, and addiction, which may be disturbing to some. Please take care as you listen. And if you need support in the United States, reach out to the crisis text line at 741-741. It's interesting, when we met at the conference, you mentioned how you were working with that analogy of the phoenix, because it's one that over the years has resonated with me so many times, because there is so much to be gained in burning things down. There's a reason why forest fires are part of nature.
Yes.
They burn away all the dead crap and the junk that's laying around, and they pave the way for all kinds of new life.
A lot of times people throw out, this is what you're supposed to do. But if they don't show you how, like if I knew how, I would be doing it.
Yeah. Because I don't think any of us want to stay stuck. Well, okay, I take that back. I know a couple of people who enjoy experience of being stuck in the moment.
Yes.
But I think the vast majority of us want to move past it. There's just so much input on how to move past it that it's overwhelming. When I first started working through some of my trauma, and I was working with a therapist, and outside of that, things would come up and I'd be like, I don't know what to do with it. I don't have an appointment for another week. What do I do now? Like, I've got this thing that was evidently repressed that's come up. What do I do with it in the meantime? And it was really hard to find any kind of guidance on how to handle it, how to process it, what to do with it.
Yeah. And then there's, anytime you click on the clickbait that's like how to live longer, how to live happier, how to live stress-free. And it's like the same things we all know, but can't see. It's like, well, if I drank enough water, if I exercised every day, if I got fresh air every day, if I clarified all my relationships, if I took time for me but gave to others, right? You're like, okay, if I had 48 hours in every day and was a perfect person, then I'd be fine. Like, well, yeah, but then you'd be fine.
Well, and it's interesting because the more I travel, the more I realize that this is uniquely an American mindset. Italy, they put so much emphasis on relationships, and it's something that they're taught in preschool, how to have a healthy relationship.
Yep.
But they don't spend a lot of time thinking about, how do I have a healthy relationship? It's just I treat people with kindness. I treat people with respect. If we have some kind of major beef, we still get together for family dinner on Sundays. I was on a tour. She said, my mother-in-law hasn't spoken to my father-in-law in 30 years. We still get together for family Sunday dinners together. They will not look at each other. They will not interact with each other, but they are in the room together. They are part of the family, and it's not awkward because everybody knows what the deal is. But I think that's interesting because I feel like in America, we put so much emphasis on fixing and on all of the things that we need to do. And as you said, all those balls that we're trying to juggle, and we don't really focus on, okay, just move forward. Just get some progression going forward, and the rest of it will figure itself out.
Yeah. And this idea that that we're individuals first.
Yes.
Right. I think most of the world lives in community because honestly, you have to. But I feel like the United States was built on this idea. No, you can do your own thing. And honestly, I'm not even saying that's a bad thing, because what it was coming out of was this idea of what you're born into is forever, right? Rising up is almost impossible. This idea of being like a bastard because of your mom's situation when she happened to get pregnant, whether it had anything to do with her choices or not, that followed you the rest of your life. So I think it came out of something good, right? Like, you actually can be whoever you want to be. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
But when we put individualism above everything else, we all end up in separate houses instead of in a situation where we can learn from each other and each other's part in life. My family and I, we actually, my mother lived with us for several years. My mother was taking care of my grandmother, and both of them lived with us for several years. Both of them now have passed. And my husband and I, now that we're empty nesters, we live adjacent, like one building, it's connected, sort of like a duplex, with my in laws. So that when our kids come home, one comes home from college and the other got married and moved to Scotland. So when they come home, it's like they're with all of us instead of trying to find. And I've had people literally look me in the eye and say, "You're doing this wrong. You shouldn't have to be doing this. Like you shouldn't be using your life to for this and in this way." And I'm like, I don't get it. I don't get that mindset. Like, I understand saying I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I understand that, of course. But I don't understand saying you're doing it wrong.
Well, and
I
the
mean,
judgment in that, the
yeah,
judgment and the assumptions that they know what's right for your life
yeah,
is pretty bold because
it is. It
yeah.
is. Yeah. Luckily I didn't listen to any of that. And of course it was hard. It was really, really hard. There was a lot of things that were difficult, but life would have been hard anyway in
Mhm.
different ways, right? I mean, that whole date night thing, we didn't have to get a babysitter. We didn't have to worry about whatever. It was like my kids were over the moon happy to be with my mom. So, there was a lot of trade-off in a really good way. So,
Well, and they say
yeah.
that the healthiest kids and the healthiest elderly are the ones that are raised together. Over in Europe, they've got daycares that are integrated with retirement facilities for that
Hmm.
exact reason, because the two groups get a lot out of interacting with each other regularly.
Yes.
And
Yes. In my former podcast that I did for a university, I interviewed a female professor who did a whole bunch of research about sort of the dawn of humankind and how we have this idea that males go out and hunt,
yeah,
women stay home, take care of the children and gather, right? And the interesting thing is all of the archaeological evidence, it actually doesn't support that at all. Not even a little bit. It was like when this male-centric archaeologist found this stuff and they found women right alongside the men, they would literally go, "Well, they must have been bringing them lunch." Talk about confirmation bias. They just
yes,
kept finding what they believed, no
yes,
matter what the evidence. And so the real evidence was the strong adults went to go hunt, and the older folks or those who had been injured stayed behind and took care of the children, no matter what the gender was. And so I think we have this idea that like we're getting that the more egalitarian we become, we're getting farther and farther away of like the beginning of time or what was meant to be.
mhm,
And I don't think that's true at all. I feel like the 50s and that whole the birth of marketing that said women are supposed to stay home and do all these things and men go to work and do all these things. I think that was sort of the first time that concept was put forth huge, that was like, this is how the world is supposed to work. So it's just fascinating. Just finished my own memoir. I don't have a publisher yet, but I'm working on it. Really what I wanted to explore was my parents got married. It was my dad's second family. He had four altogether, but my sister and I were number two. And he was already an alcoholic and had been like since he was a teenager. But soon after that marriage, my sister was 5 and I was 4. It was bad enough that my mom felt like she had to take us and leave. And so the rest of our childhood, it was sort of single mom, don't see him very often. And we have two older siblings that were from his first marriage. So we had these two hippie, basically adult siblings that were smoking pot and playing music. Um, and that was great. And then my dad was all about music. He was a brilliant lawyer, but all about logic, story, narrative, music. And then we were raised in a single parent household by my mother, who was all about the church. That's how she was raised. And especially now that she's sort of lost her dream of the Beaver Cleaver family, the church was what was going to save us. And so I was raised with these two sort of ideals that the one thing they had in common was, as a woman, what you needed to do was fall in love and let that man be in control of your life. But that never worked for me, right? My dad wasn't there. He's supposed to be in charge. And then I dated a guy on and off. The first time we started dating was in junior high, on and off through high school, back together in college. He joined the Navy, I went to college, and still seeing each other. And then the day my father died, the boyfriend came home from the Navy. And I mean, within 20 minutes of finding out my father had died, he walked in. I blurted out, I don't think I can marry you. He turned around and walked away, and I've never seen him again. So, logistically, I lost the two men in my life, the man I was going to marry and my father, on the same day.
Wow.
But I was raised from every angle to believe you cannot be who you're supposed to be without that man, without that love, whether it's your dad, your husband, right? You move from one to the other, dad to husband. And it took me a long time to unpack that. Now, let me say, I did get married young. It did work out well in the end, doing great. I am so blessed. But we have two daughters, and I've told them from the beginning, I said, hey, we lucked out. I didn't do it right. I got married, in a lot of ways out of fear. And it
Yeah.
happened to be awesome. It happened to work out. Don't go down that path. Don't choose that. You are who you want to be, and you are enough, And I think there's so many women out there that don't even realize that they're living in this box of I can't be too successful
Yes.
until I have a man because I can't overshine him.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to know more than them. You're not supposed to be
No.
stronger than them. You can't make more money than them. And heaven forbid you have a good idea. You have to let them think it's their idea. And the funny thing is that this whole concept is just as harmful to men as it is to women.
Yes. Absolutely.
This isn't an anti-men conversation, right? I
Oh,
had a man in our program say to me one day, just, with like tears brimming in his eyes, I feel like my wife and daughters would rather that I die than fall off the white horse that I'm supposed to be on. Because it would be easier to deal with a perfect dad who has passed than a dad
ah,
who is human and has some flaws and doesn't actually know all the answers. I mean, it's just as harmful for men,
yeah,
for sure.
it's completely unfair in putting the emphasis on women not stepping up. That forces men to step up.
Hmm.
And I know plenty of men that don't want to step up. They're not
Yeah.
interested in being the provider, the one that rides off on the white horse. They don't want to be that.
Hmm.
They're not asked. They're not given the choice of, okay, hey, what role do you want to be the stay-at-home parent? Do you want
Right.
to be the nurturer? Do you want to be the cook? What do you want to be?
And does it have to be binary, right?
No, yeah,
Does it have to be, or can it not be a partnership from the beginning?
yeah.
Can it not all be a
And
partnership?
you think about the most cruel things that you can say to a man, and it's all feminizing them. You're a
Yeah.
pussy. Oh, you're gonna cry now, cry baby? Like all
Right.
these concepts. Oh, he's soft. Oh, he's a pansy.
Or just calling them by a girl's name,
Yeah.
Nancy or
Yes.
Betty is like the
Yes.
biggest insult. And it's
Yeah.
like, really? The
And,
worst thing you can call a man is a woman?
and not only that, but you're also completely dehumanizing a very real and valid part of them.
Right.
You know, we all have the dichotomies in us.
Yep.
We have both the yin and the yang. We have the male and the female. And
Hmm.
in different situations, you lean into different parts. I've had plenty of times where I've had to step up and be the leader and be the strong one. And I've had plenty of times where I've had to set back and be soft and be gentle when I'm pissed. But I know in that moment, any strength I bring to the situation is not going to serve it. But if
Right.
I can get myself to be softer and to fold back into that gentleness,
Hmm.
then I can help something move forward. One of the things that I've done more times than is probably smart for me to do, probably 8 or 9 times where I've come across road rage and I've looked at it and said, you know what, as an independent third party, if I can come in and I can be gentle and I can be soft, I can help to de-escalate this. And it's
Yeah.
weird how when you come into situations like that where you've got two people that are so keyed up
Hmm.
and you're just completely soft and gentle with it, it relieves both of them. I love the points that you make about how we do men such a great disservice by demanding that they be the provider and the strong one and the knight on the white horse in the shining armor. Because that's a
Yeah.
heavy mantle to carry.
It's heavy, and there's a lot of yourself you have to ignore, just like women that are told from such an early age, and maybe not this next generation. I feel like I see in my own daughters, there's so much freedom in not having been taught
Yeah.
that since
Yeah.
birth. But so many of us are still walking around with this idea of what a woman should look like, and this whole
Yes.
idea of having it all. Like you're supposed to be really good at work, but also take care of the kids, but also be the one that they want when they're sick, but also it's all the things.
Yeah.
And no one's really asking, well, who are you? And I
Yeah.
wish we had different nomenclature for like masculine and feminine, because I think the masculine and feminine are completely different and completely separate from male female, right?
Yeah.
There's just ways of thinking that we think. Like, I happen to be a very masculine thinker. I think very logically. That's just
Yeah.
how my brain works. It always has. And it's gotten me in trouble a lot, especially when I was younger and especially in the church world, that if I ask a question that if it came out of a male, if it came out of a male's mouth, they would just answer the question. But because it came out of this small curly haired girl's mouth, they're like, you're being rude, you're being a brat. And I wasn't taken seriously. Like, no, I actually wanted an answer. I wasn't trying to be rude. And I think it's so hard when we say male is masculine,
Yeah.
female is feminine, when the truth is we're all just, it's fields, right? It's not binary, it's fields. And we all have all stuff all over the map. And it doesn't really matter if we're male or female or non-binary. We still have a mix of those things. And that's really the message that I want to get out to the world, both male and female. Like I said, like, of course, my heart's with the women who are being put in a box, but so are the men. By the time you put the women in the
Yep.
box, you are forcing men into a box as well. It may look on the outside like they have more choices, and sometimes that might be true, but it's hurting their identity as well,
Absolutely.
just as much. Yeah.
And you look at nature, nature's got so many instances. Hyenas are a classic example. Hyenas are led by the strong matriarch, and she is
Mm-hmm.
dominant force in the entire pack. You look at lionesses, and they play such a strong role. And what they have found is that the male lions may be the ones that take out other male lions to adopt a pack. But if the lionesses don't agree with the choice, they will band up and either kick them out or kill them. And you look at that and you're like, okay, so this is not about male or female. This is about how do we all fall into whatever is our ideal niche, whatever that is.
Right.
And
And
as
when we're not allowed to be all we were meant to be,
yes,
it hurts the whole community. It's
yes,
not a selfish thing to say, I need to step into who I was created to be, because it helps everybody. There's something missing from like the collective consciousness or whatever you want to call it. There's something missing from the community when you aren't who you're supposed to be.
yeah, yeah. Because the best parts of you, the truest parts of you, are subverted then. One of the things that I talk very openly about, and I alluded to it in the beginning of this, but that I was raised in abuse.
Mm-hmm.
And that your comment about women not feeling like they're enough, that for me was such an epiphany to realize, and I want to say it was my late 20s or early 30s when I read somewhere, I read a quote that said, "You are enough." And it was this
Mm-hmm.
light bulb moment because my entire life I had grown up thinking, if I'm successful enough, if I'm well presented enough, if I own a nice enough house, if I drive a nice enough car, if my handbags are expensive enough, then I will be worthy.
Mm-hmm.
And I put so much emphasis on creating this creature that I thought I
Mm-hmm.
needed to be in order to be enough. And 12 years ago, I had an accident, and I talked with you and Matt about the fact that it hit the reset button on my life. It essentially shattered my ability to maintain the facade any longer.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't. It just was not something I had the physical capability to do any longer.
Yeah.
And it was so incredibly freeing because for once I was able to sit back and say, okay, you know what? None of the people that cared about that facade are going to stay in my life regardless. And I lost two of what I thought was my closest friends.
Yeah.
And that was heartbreaking because I was trying so hard to rescue this friendship. And no matter what I did, it pushed them further away. And finally, I had to realize they weren't meant to be in this next iteration. And that's okay.
Yeah.
But it also freed me to be a much more honest and genuine version of who I am and to really embrace the truth of me and to start to give back what was at my essence, which was not something that I ever brought forward in the past. And so
Mm-hmm.
you're so absolutely right that letting go of that facade is the best thing that we can do both for ourselves and for the society as a whole.
Yeah. And you want to be seen, all of us, every
Yes.
human being, we want to be seen. And then we want to be loved for what they see.
Yes.
And by taking away all the stuff that you were doing to be seen and loved, you were
Yes.
actually seen. And guess what? You've received so much love, right? For being
Yes.
who you genuinely are. And I had that same thing. My entire adult life, my husband was actually a pastor for a while. So I was a pastor's wife. I was a children's pastor. I was preaching a lot. And eventually, I have not lost my faith. I have not stepped away from my faith, but I had to step away from the church, which, when your husband's pastor, that is a very big deal. And of course, not that long after, he stepped away as well. But it's when I finally hit that ceiling, your moment of reading that thing that said, mine was just a meeting. It was a leadership team meeting. And I thought I was fighting from the inside, right? I was doing the stuff that you're supposed to do. You don't step out of a community, you fight for it from the inside. And I was in so many places on so many levels. And there was a meeting once, and they were basically, long story short, saying, we can't have female elders, but if we call it a leadership team, then it can be both genders. And this was a church that you would not think this was a problem, right? This is not how it felt on a day-to-day basis. And of course, being the logical brain that I am, I was like, that's not okay with me because we're just talking semantics here. Like, what's the difference? Like, so I kept digging. And of course, I was being seen as disruptive for digging and wanting an answer. It's like, well, you're getting what you want. What's the problem? I'm like, no. And so finally, there was a moment I'll never forget where I said, oh, so we can make most of the decisions, but if there's like a big, hard decision to make, the men will go in the corner and make that decision. And he said, yeah. And I said, then I'm done. Then I'm
Oh,
done. And it was not easy, right? To
no.
step, it was our whole life, our whole life. It was our jobs. I was also working at a university, but it was a faith-based university. So it took me a while, to extricate all the things, but I had to do it
Yeah.
to finally be who I am and really get across the message that I want to get out there is don't let all the stuff swirling around us put you in a box. And if you and a lot of times you don't even know what those walls are, which leads me to the Phoenix lessons, which my business partner and we've been the business started before me. It's been going on for about a decade, helping people write their memoirs and watching how transformative it is to write your own story for not journaling, but write it for an external audience. And we've seen so many people go through such immense change that we're like, we need to bring this to the masses. Not everybody needs to write a book. So the Phoenix lessons is really taking in that Phoenix myth of multiple times in our lives, we have to burn things up, rise from the ashes, and soar again. And part of the myth I had never known is when the phoenix soars again, she goes to this well of immortality and scoops up water and then gives water to everyone around her. So it's like rising again isn't just for her personally, it's for the whole community. And so we're starting a podcast, and then it's a 6 months training program as well for people who are like, I am so stuck. I got to get in there and do the work. And we meet twice a month for 6 months with lots of really experiential work for people like me and like my business partner, Cami Osman, who is not only a writer, but she was a therapist, a family systems therapist for 20 years. So between the pastoral counseling and her counseling, like we just come with a lot of depth and experience of helping people realize what are the walls, how do you burn them down, and then what comes next, right? I mean, those are sort of those three things that, like we talked about at the very beginning, you may need, you may know that you need to do that, but it's very hard to figure out how.
You know your own walls so intimately that sometimes you don't realize they are there
Yeah.
until someone points it out to you or something breaks.
Yeah.
And suddenly you're like, oh my goodness, like I've been living in this box that
Yeah.
is my own creation, but I
Yeah.
created it so long ago when I needed it, when I needed the protection that it provided.
Yes,
And that's the
exactly.
thing with so many boxes is that they were created at a time when we were so vulnerable that we needed something to protect us.
Mm-hmm.
But then as we've grown, we've outgrown the need for that box and it
Yep.
stops being protective and starts being constraining and preventing us
Yes.
from growing to be the better versions of ourselves.
Yes. And there's two ways to do it. You can either consciously do that work, right? And find that false wall that has a big room behind it that you need to stretch out.
Mhm.
Or, like what happened with you with your accident, you know, there can be this big flood that seems like the worst thing that ever happened to you. But when you tear
Yes.
down the wall, guess what? You discover this whole room that you didn't know that you had. And I think that's both ways, right? Like the burning of the phoenix. Sometimes you decide to burn, and sometimes the burning is thrust upon you.
Yeah.
Losing everything is a heck of a phoenix moment for sure.
But can also be such a gift. You know,
Yeah.
the thing is,
Yeah.
I know I wouldn't have chosen to burn down my own walls. I wouldn't have chosen that. I'm now grateful that it happened. But in the moment, I was working so hard to maintain that status quo
Mm-hmm.
that I never stopped to think, okay, does this serve me? And I
Right.
knew that there was something bigger and better out there, but I had no idea what it was or how to get there. And so
Mm-hmm.
therefore my approach was to continue to do the things that have served me well in the past because
Yeah.
that was the best that I knew to do.
Right. And it's not your fault. It's
No.
not your fault that you didn't know what else to do. I mean, how often do we say, well, I can't do that? Well, I can't do whatever it is. And it's like, you can't? Really? Let's examine that a little bit. Right? And maybe
Yeah.
you shouldn't. Maybe you don't want to, whatever the thing is. But I think we use can't way too often, way too often. I think sometimes just changing our own vocabulary of I'm choosing to stay home with my kids. I'm
Yes.
making that choice. I don't have to. There's other things I could be doing, even if it would be really hard or maybe it wouldn't make lots of financial sense, but it is a choice. It
Hmm.
really is. And when we change that vocabulary, I think we help get ourselves to the place where we can actually see where change can be made instead of just, well, I can't, I'm stuck, I can't.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and it's freeing to let go of that I can't. In saying the can't, it's a choice. You are
Mm-hmm.
choosing to repeat the same trends that you've been choosing. And that's okay. That is a perfectly viable option as long as you are aware of the fact that that's what you're choosing.
Yeah.
One of the things that I say is that I now know for a fact that I am 1,000,000 feet tall and bulletproof. I know that for a fact. I know I can accomplish anything I set my mind to. I was mowed down by a car. I know the strength that I have inside. I'd had a physical not long before the accident, and the doctor had written down never has headaches. And because it wasn't part of my life, and I went from no headaches to perpetual migraines. And I was sitting there one night just sobbing because I was like, I'm working so hard and I don't know why I'm not getting back to where I was. Am I, what is it going to take for me to get back to where I was?
Mm-hmm.
And it occurred to me, I was like, I'm never going to get back to where I was. That's not an option for me any longer. It was a hard realization, but from there, I was able to say, okay, I can't get back to there, but I can definitely get to a better place than I am in this moment. And how do I
Right.
make the most with what I got now?
Yes.
And
It's like that identity is gone,
it's
right?
completely
There's no
gone.
getting back to who you were because that identity has passed.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean there isn't a new and wonderful identity to be had.
And so I
Yeah.
think that's the important thing to your point of people that are so low and they're like, you know what, screw you. I don't want to hear this message. But the point remains, I don't care how low you are. There is a path forward if you choose to take it. And if you choose not to, that's a choice as well. And it's
Mm-hmm.
no one's right to tell you it's the right or wrong choice.
Yeah.
I will say that for each of the really brutal moments in my life, I am so glad that I chose to move forward from that point and let go
Mm-hmm.
of what had been. It's hard. On my father's deathbed, I had a really enlightening discussion with him. As I said earlier, I grew up in abuse. When I was, I believe, 13, he had a severe motorcycle accident. He was hit by a drunk driver. And so the man that I had known, who, as abusive as he was, I loved him,
Mm-hmm.
was suddenly gone. And I had this new creature who looked different, who smelled different, who moved different. He lost his left eye. He flew 30 something feet and landed on the left side of his face. So he perpetually had this huge, look like a plum on the side of his face. And his accident took the human parts of him and eroded those and left behind the anger. And so he was this very irrational, very angry person. And so he'd always been abusive, but he always had like the beautiful moments as well. And that's why you stayed
Mm-hmm.
with him through the abuse. To
Right.
now he was nothing but anger.
Oh.
And I had gotten to a point where I couldn't have a relationship with him any longer.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime we would talk, he would tell me about the animals that he abused. One of the things that he'd always done was abuse animals. It's taken me years to realize that's why I'm vegan, is that I saw so much trauma growing up that I was like, I don't ever want to be part of anything suffering. So
Mm-hmm.
on his deathbed, I asked him, I asked him the question of, did you ever want to be my father? It was a longer answer, but essentially the sum total of it was no. I never got a chance. Your mother stopped taking her birth control and she got pregnant and I was trapped. And that was one of those moments where you can just feel everything, every hope, every dream that you've ever held burn away in an instant.
Mm-hmm.
But it was so incredibly freeing because holding on to that hope was so painful because it was never realized. And he didn't have it in him to be the person that I always hoped that he would be.
Right.
But in that single answer, he gave me such a gift because I realized no matter
It
what
wasn't,
I had done,
yeah,
it was
wasn't about
never,
you.
no, it
No.
wasn't about me.
And see, there's the stuck, right? And then I was stuck. He wasn't stuck. He could have left. How many men leave? Men
Yes,
leave.
it was really scary because one of the things that happens is you no longer recognize yourself. Like your brain no longer functions the way that you're used to it functioning. I'm hyper punctual. I am the person that takes being reliable very seriously because my parents were not reliable. And I could no longer count on my brain keeping track of details. And I would show up at weird moments for things. I would show up to pick my kids up from preschool at weird times. And the first couple times it happened, I'm like, where are all the other cars? Like, what's going on?
Mm,
And I would either be an hour early or 45 minutes late. And that to me was terrifying because it was like, I am trying so hard to maintain control over this. And no matter what I do, it's not that I'm choosing to be unreliable, it's that I have no choice. And I remember my father and thinking, oh my God, is this who I'm always going to be from here on out? I think that having kids, I did not want them to grow up with the parent that I was in that moment.
yeah.
Having
Yeah.
grown up with the father that he was, I did not want my kids to grow up with that as a parent. And so I started looking at the things that I could control. And it was
Yeah.
like, okay, I can't control the pain. I can continue to do my best to deal with it, but I can't control the pain. So that is what it is. I can't control the balance, but I can make myself stronger. The very first thing I did was I walked, it's maybe an eighth of a mile to the end of my street and back. And that was so painful and so
Mm,
humbling. And I was like, okay, tomorrow I'm going to walk just a little bit further. Next day I'm going to walk just a little bit further. And after a few weeks of that, I had gotten up to where I could walk a mile, and it was painful. The leg that I was hit in, it acts weird. It lets go at random moments, and so
mm-hmm.
it was humbling. I'm out there walking with I would either use a walking cane or I would push my stroller because it was something that I could lean on. And then I thought, okay, so this has worked okay. I started lifting weights because I was like, again, I've got this really damaged, really weak body. What can I do? And so I started
Yeah.
looking for little bitty steps that I could take forward. And that was it. Every single day I was like, okay, I just want one more step forward than yesterday. Just
Yeah.
one small increment forward. As the saying goes, huge journeys are made a step at a time.
Yeah.
And it is one of those things where when you look at it as a whole, it's huge. It's
Yeah.
insurmountable. It is so scary. But if you say, I just want to do better than I did yesterday,
Hmm.
and consistently approach life with that standpoint of, I just want to do a little bit more than I did yesterday, that is where major change happens and major
Yeah.
growth is possible.
Yeah. Yeah. And that why is so important, right?
Yes.
Because
Yes.
without the kids, it's quite possible that you would just cave in on yourself and
Yeah.
say, clearly, this is it. This is the
Yeah.
end of me,
Yeah.
the end. But I definitely feel that, right? As
Yeah.
a mom of two kids, that there's plenty of times where you're like, I give up, except I can't,
Yes.
right? Except I can't. Because that's one of those can'ts where, yes, you could. You could have caved in on yourself as a mom of two kids. I could have quit, even though I
Yeah.
was a mom of two kids, but I wasn't willing to. I choose not to quit, right? Because I will not do to my children what was done to me. I will not. And I think that is one of the best whys we have if you have kids is
Yes.
every kid's gonna, go talk to a counselor someday about how their parents, did something wrong. But I will not, I will not damage my children the way I was damaged, right? They will grow up being loved. They will grow
Hmm.
knowing that who they are and that who they are is who they choose and they can explore that on their own. They can ask any questions. That was a big thing for my kids. And if you ask them to this day, they will tell you at 24 and 22 that I always said, you can ask me anything. You can tell me anything. You
Yep.
can ask me anything. And the only time things are going to go super sideways is if you stop that, right? Like
Yeah.
they literally used to bring, as teenagers, they would bring their friends to me. And it was always in the car. Maybe it's less scary, like a confessional or something, because I'm driving and they're back there. But they would bring friends to me and I could see them in the back seat, like, ask her, ask her. Because they knew I would tell the truth. But of course, that put me in a weird position sometimes. Like, I will never forget the day. It was like, how old should you be when you first have sex? And I'm like, this is not my
83.
child. How do I answer this question? But I just did the best I could. I just said, well, you know how quickly you're changing right now? And like the boys around you, like you don't see them for a few weeks and they feel like a whole different person. I said, you probably don't want to choose your first time now when everything's so chaotic. Like you
Yeah.
probably want to have a better sense of who you are and
Yeah.
who that person is if you really want your first time to be something lovely and memorable. And then I'm like, I hope that was the right thing to say. But
You
that's
know that.
everything, right? Like you saying, I just one more step, just one more step. Was walking the right thing to do? I don't know, but you needed to walk anyway as a
Yeah.
mom. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna work on it.
Well, and progress of any kind is
Yeah.
progress forward. Like
Yeah.
that's, I get so many people because the gym is now a huge part of my life, and so many people ask me, like, how do you get motivated? How do you stay consistent? And it's like, just do it one day at a time. You
Yeah.
you can't control what's going to happen tomorrow. Yesterday's done, so
Yeah.
there's no point in beating yourself up over the exercise you did or didn't get, or the growth or the progress that you did or didn't get. Right now is the only thing that you can control. And
Hmm.
you can make so many changes in your life if you just live in this moment right here and make it better than it was yesterday.
And the things that put in your life to support those goals is I think really important because if you make your goal the gym, like you said, if you're somebody who doesn't want to go and it's like pulling teeth every time,
Yeah.
well, then find something to help you do that.
Yes.
Find a partner to work
Yes.
out with. Find,
Yes.
when I first started walking after I had kids, I had a friend that I'd known since high school. And all of a sudden we happened to be living within blocks of each other when we both had two little kids. And so we had to get up at like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning in order to be home and showered before we had to get everybody up. But we used to call it walk therapy because not only did we get our exercise, but in the dark with two people who'd known each other forever without anybody looking or listening. It's like we could just say anything and it was so freeing. And I think, just to come a little bit full circle, I think that can be a good way to sort of discover some of those walls that we talked about, those
Mhm.
walls that have been put up, because some certain people can say certain things and they might be incredibly just downright mean. And
Yep.
you just go, whoa, look at you being weird. Okay. And then somebody else says something and you just die inside, right? You just
Yes.
crumple like, oh,
Yeah.
that was, it's just like arrow to the heart. And those arrow to the heart moments is a good time to say, whoa, what what have I got going on that hits me so hard? What do I believe about myself, about this relationship, about the
Yeah.
world, that one little comment, it's just
Yeah.
words in the air, can hurt
Yeah.
me so badly? What is going on
Yeah.
that is the case, right? Do I
Yeah.
see myself through their eyes? Am I searching for that acceptance that I feel like I need from someone else? What is it? What is it that's making that so hard to ignore? I think that can be a good way to sort of ferret out some of those things that need to be uprooted in your
Yeah.
life.
Well, and because you're so right. Why am I giving them the power to have this kind of an impact on what I do? Because end of the day, they're not making the changes, they're not making the decisions, they're not going to be the ones that benefit from it. So why would I let them tear it apart?
No reason,
And
except
it,
we all do. We're all human. Don't
yeah,
beat yourself up about letting it, letting you beat yourself up. But it's true. It can be a good way to say, okay, there's something there. I need to look into that a little
yes,
bit.
I need to, and it is interesting. I was talking with a friend earlier today about she's in a relationship and the guy's being wishy-washy with her. And I said, okay, you can't control that. She's like, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, nothing. Like he's telling you what role he's going to have in your life. He's
Yeah.
showing you. There
Hmm.
is nothing that you can do that's going to shift that for him.
Yeah.
And all you can do is decide, yes, this works for me, or no, it doesn't.
Yes.
And if it doesn't, love yourself enough to move on and let it go because
And that is such a great example of what we were talking about, of how women are taught to be a certain way, because I
yes,
feel like every woman can raise her hand and say, I've been on that side of they're not as into me as I am into them.
yes,
And instead of having a conversation, hey, I'm looking for XYZ. Is this what you want? No?
yeah,
Okay,
good,
let's be friends,
good
or
to know.
nice knowing you, right?
Yes.
Um, but that's not how we're taught. There's a line from that old movie, My Big Fat Greek Wedding, where the
Mm,
mom says, the man may be the head, but the woman's the neck. She can turn the head any way she wants. And I mean, the movie's funny and that moment is funny, but I hate that concept to the core of my being. So
yes.
you think the creator of the universe, the way that she, it, them made the world so that the males are supposed to be in charge, and the way that women have power is to convince the man something,
Manipulation. Yeah,
manipulate the man into something.
yeah,
And frankly, I know a lot of women, they wouldn't say that
yeah,
that's how they live their lives, but they are, right?
yes,
And they're just trying little sneaky ways
yes,
to get what they want out of their relationship, whether it's with a man or a woman. And it's so sad to me, because
yes.
that is not, none of us should work that way. We should work by saying, hey, this is what I would like in a relationship. How about you? Oh, you want the same thing but maybe not with me? Okay. Well,
Hey, that's
and
okay.
maybe we just keep things the way they are. Maybe we move on, but this whole idea that for years these relationships go on with
Mm.
one trying to sort of be who he wants to be, and the woman trying to sort of manipulate him into being who she wants him to be. And uh-uh,
And it
no,
doesn't serve either one. Neither one has
no,
their needs met that way.
yep, nope. And then both go to their friends and complain
Yeah,
about the
yeah,
person they're with and try and get advice about how to get them to be who they want them to be. And it's
yeah,
like, or have a real conversation with each
yeah.
other. Yeah.
And say, this doesn't work for me. If this works for you, okay, we've got a delta here that we either figure out how to bridge, or we say, that delta is big enough that we're each going to just keep going in our own respective paths.
Yeah.
But that's a really good point about how it just because you can manipulate somebody into being whatever it is that you want them to be does not mean that that's a good thing for either one of you.
Right, right. And is that how you want your partner to choose to marry you, move in with you,
Yeah.
stay with you,
Yeah.
go on vacation with you? I don't even know. Have a
Yeah.
baby with you. Do you want it to be because they were manipulated into it? No, you don't. You
No.
want it to be because you both want the same things.
Yeah.
But we've sort of been taught that that's not how it works. Another sort of trope that drives me absolutely crazy is the Beauty and the Beast. If I can love him enough, he
Yeah.
will turn from a beast into a prince. No, he won't.
Won't.
Or she, right? It does work the other way around,
It-
but there is no such thing as being pure enough, lovely enough, and loving someone enough that just your love alone
Yes.
turns them from a beast in that who kidnapped you and separated you from your family.
Yes.
You know, it's Twilight. It's
Yes.
every vampire, everything. And
Yes.
I hate it so much. I think it's the worst myth put forth
Yes.
on the women of the entire world because women believe it.
Hmm.
They fall in love with the ruggedness
The
and the
potential. Yeah.
yes, and the quietness of the Marlboro man or
Yeah.
the, you know, and we think we'll turn him into this person we want him to be just by loving him.
No.
That's
And
not real.
it's one of those things where it's, if they are not who you expected them to be upfront, they're not going to morph. Like in the beginning is when they're on their absolute best behavior. Same for us. We're all on our absolute best behavior in the beginning. I always say you don't know who somebody is until you have your first big disagreement about something.
Right.
Until you've had that big disagreement, the moon glow is still in place. So until
Right.
you have something where you both are diametrically opposed and you're both like, you know what, this is a major point of contention for me. You don't really know
Mm-hmm.
who someone is, number one.
Yeah.
But number
Yep.
two, if you meet them and they're not already like hitting all your boxes, then they're not going to magically grow into a point where, because that's not how people work.
Yeah.
And it's also disingenuous for us to expect that, to look at them and say,
Of
you know what,
course it is.
they've got
Yeah.
these 4 things that I like, but these other 7 I don't like. How unfair is it for us to be like, yeah, you know what, I sort of like parts of you. No, that's not fair. That's, if you only like parts of me, then keep on going because this is who I am.
Well, and everybody's going to change anyway.
Yes.
Right. We're
Yes.
not going to be this, and it not just the big dramatic ones like
Yes.
we talked about, right, where you have
Yeah.
to burn down an entire identity, but even in smaller ways, you know, you grow and learn as a person. And so if you don't have communication from the beginning, if you can't be who you really are in front of each other from very early on, then how in the world, if you're just barely hanging on at the beginning, when you begin to
Yeah.
change and you're both changing, you're either going to get farther and farther apart, or you're going to communicate really well and you're going to be able to make those changes together. And I mean, I just am a little bit blown away that my husband and I have such a great relationship and have able to come through this. I mean, from empty nesting, leaving 2 jobs that were like our whole lives, stepping away from the church. And I mean, we're better than ever, but that's because we talk all the time, all the time. And it's not always happy, happy, joy,
Yeah.
joy, right? Like we can have debates, but we don't call each other names and we don't yell at each other. It's not that. It's like, well, wait a minute, I don't understand what you're saying. Oh, what
Yeah.
I hear you saying is this. That can't be right. You know, like you can be really mad at each other, but you don't have to be the mudslinging type of
Well,
fights. Yeah.
and having enough respect for one another that assuming that the other person is coming from a good place to
Yeah.
say, okay, you know what, it sounds to me like you're saying this, but I don't know that to be the person that you are. So let's get to a little bit of an understanding of what it is that you're really saying.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're saying is this, I have a real issue with that.
Right.
So explain to me what it is that you're trying to get across, because 99% of the time, I find that people are communicating not what it is that they're actually saying. What they want to communicate is something different than what they're actually conveying. And it's
Yes.
also, how is it landing with me? Because I'm listening through the lens of a kid that was raised in abuse, a kid that was neglected, a kid that lived without running water and power at
Mm-hmm.
large chunks of time. Someone who's had unhealthy relationships, someone who has had a traumatic brain injury. Like I have all these things that color my lens.
Mm-hmm.
And so a simple phrase can really resonate in a completely different way that if you don't have that communication in place, it's going to very much impact how you communicate with one another.
Absolutely. I love Brene Brown's The Story I'm Telling Myself. She talks
Oh,
about that a lot because sometimes your spouse, your partner says something, and like you said, it hits you a certain way. And so to say, instead of saying, "What did you say to me?" Right? Or is the story I'm telling myself is you think I'm too stupid to load the dishwasher. And then they have a chance to respond, well, sort of, yeah, right. Or the only reason it was that tone of voice is while I was loading the dishwasher, I thought I almost dropped a dish. So I was trying to catch it, whatever it is,
yeah.
whatever it is.
You're harboring all of this emotion over something that isn't even a thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the hardest part about communicating, like really communicating the way I think all humans should, is that most of us were not raised in a household where that was modeled for us.
Yes.
And I think most people, that's not conscious. You don't go, oh, we should figure out how to do this together. They just go with what they have, which is not much for
Yeah.
most of us. Yeah.
Yeah. No, very much so. It's such a critical skill and such a challenging skill. And it requires you to be really vulnerable, but also really honest with yourself about, okay, what am I hearing and why am I hearing that?
Mm-hmm.
Then to address it with them of, okay, why did you say it that way? What was it that you were trying to convey? So it's not just a single level, you and them, it's all of the voices behind you and all of the voices behind them coming to this one point of interaction.
Yeah. Right. And then you add on top of all that, all these assumptions that we were talking about, right?
Yeah.
That are
Yeah.
built up inside of us that this is what the masculine is supposed to look like. This is what the
Yes.
feminine is supposed to look like. This is how I'm supposed to get what I want with my spouse.
Yes.
All that is all built up inside you. Most of us have not examined any of that anyway. So it can seem insurmountable, but
Yeah.
just like everything else, just like you walk down the road with your stroller, one step at a time, one conversation at a time of exactly what you said. Be vulnerable, be curious. Don't
Yes.
be thinking about your next argument while they're talking. Listen to what they're saying, ask questions, be curious about their point of view instead of I knew they thought that. Be like, well,
Yes.
wait a minute, what do they really think? Like,
Yeah.
be curious, be vulnerable, one step at a time.
That be curious is huge. My son's got pretty severe anxiety and he's really good at masking it. And so I had no idea until COVID hit and he started having these rage blowups. And so
Mm,
we get him in for the psychoeducational evaluation and talking with a therapist afterwards. And that was one of the things that she told me is in relationships in general, but especially relationships with children, most of us want to be judge and jury. We want to find where you were wrong and show you that you're wrong and make certain that you understand that this was wrong. And she said,
yeah.
if instead get curious and instead of looking to see who's wrong and why they're wrong, seek understanding. It de-escalates everything because answering questions shifts the entire discussion
Mm-hmm.
and it enables you to move forward from a much softer standpoint than you were wrong and this hurt and I'm upset about this and this is why this is not acceptable. But
Mm-hmm.
hey, why were you so upset over this thing? Like what is it about this that you found upsetting? Because I don't know that I completely understood what happened there. Can you explain that to me?
It's a lot easier to be angry than sad. It's
Yeah,
easier to be angry than afraid, right? It's easier
yeah,
to be angry than feel lost and all these other things. So I think sometimes anger is on top of other things. And when you ask
yeah,
those questions, you can start to see what it is instead of always assuming
yeah.
that it's about you.
It's very rarely about you.
No.
Like that's okay. Because you're being amazing, you're being the best version of you, and it still isn't going to work for him. That's okay.
Yeah.
It's not about you.
Right.
It's never going to be about you because something in him doesn't work for him in this situation, and that's okay.
So many times, and there were times in my life where it was all too much. And instead of trying to talk me into anything, my mom was always like, okay, well, whatever
That's
you want.
awesome.
And when she did, it like took away all the pressure. I
Yeah.
remember the night before I was supposed to leave for college, it was all too much.
Yeah.
I'm leaving the life that I knew and this guy that I'm dating, and I don't know, and it's too much. And she's like, well, don't go. What? But we put down this big deposit. Well, maybe
Okay.
we can get it back. Well, then what would I do? Stay home. Well, it's too late. So get in somewhere winter quarter. Like everything I said was just like, well, do whatever you want to do. So I got up in the morning and went to college. It was like, because she took the pressure away, it's
Yeah.
the can't. I can't
Yeah.
stay home.
Yeah.
Well, yes, you can.
Yeah.
It's a choice to go to college. You
Yeah.
can't, it may not be what you want to do, but you can. And all of a sudden, when I knew I had a choice, then I could choose to do it, no problem. And that happened a number of times in my life, which is one of the many reasons I always said to my kids, communicate, communicate, communicate. Like, I can't help if you don't tell me what's going on. I'll ask questions. You tell me the truth. Come to me if there's a problem I don't know about. Because a lot of times just taking away the have tos, that's what we all want, which
Yes.
takes us all the way back to these male female
Yeah.
roles, right, that we've been put in. The reason they're so destructive is it takes away the choice of who we really are and who we really want to be. And if choice upon choice upon choice is what we think we're supposed to do instead of what we really want, that's where we find ourselves. We've built this entire castle around ourselves, and then we wake up one day and go, I don't want any of this. And then
Yeah.
it's a much bigger process to dismantle.
This has been wonderful. Like,
Yeah, and I can't wait for you to come on the Phoenix
Yeah.
lessons. You have such an amazing Phoenix story. I know you're gonna, your story has already been so inspirational to so many people, but I can't wait to bring you to our community as well. I learned so much in writing my book that it's been a privilege then to help other people do that, and now just work on life narratives alone. Like, you don't have to write a book to unpack the stories you're telling yourself
That's
and
awesome.
decide that may not be a good story for me anymore.
That's a beautiful thing. I mean,
It
it's really
is.
a beautiful thing to be like, yeah, you know what? This doesn't serve me any longer.
Yes. And I love what you said about it's not even that it's wrong.
Yeah.
It may have served you well at one point,
Yes.
but not now.
Yes.
And that's okay. And so
Yeah.
now it's time to change that story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, thank you so much, Amanda. This was amazing.
Yeah, thank you so much. I love talking to you.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Caroline's Adventure podcast. While you're here, subscribe to the show so you're the first to catch new episodes when they're released. And if you enjoyed hanging out with me today, please leave a 5-star rating. For links to social media and more content, visit the description for this episode or go to carolinesadventure.com. That's Caroline with 2 A's, adventure.com.